Imagine this. You're constantly walking on eggshells, second guessing yourself and feeling like no matter what you do, it's never enough. Sounds familiar? That's the reality of dealing with a narcissistic parent. But here's the truth. You do not have to live under their control. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how to set unshakable boundaries and finally reclaim your peace. Get ready, because once you take this step, there's no going back. So how do you set boundaries with a narcissistic parent, and then how do you deal with a narcissistic parent? Now, dealing with a narcissistic parent can be emotionally draining and mentally exhausting. Narcissistic parents often lack empathy, manipulate their children, and prioritize their own needs over the needs of the child. And if you're navigating this challenging dynamic, setting firm boundaries is essential for protecting your mental health and your emotional well-being. This video will guide you through recognizing narcissistic behavior, setting boundaries effectively, and coping with the emotional impact of dealing with a narcissistic parent. So first things first. What is narcissistic parenting? Understanding narcissistic parenting. Now, a narcissistic parent typically exhibits traits of narcissistic personality disorder, NPD, or narcissistic tendencies, including lack of empathy. They struggle to understand or care about your emotions. They also exhibit manipulation and gaslighting, whereby they twist reality to make you doubt yourself. Also, they engage in control and guilt tripping, whereby they make you feel guilty for asserting your independence. And then there is also emotional or verbal abuse, whereby they belittle, criticize, or emotionally neglect you. And then there is extreme self-centeredness, where their needs and desires always come first, and then they play the victim. They rarely take responsibility and often blame others. These are all things you're going to see in a narcissistic parent. Now, if you recognize these behaviors in your parent, it's important to understand that you are not responsible for their actions, and that setting boundaries is necessary for your own well-being. So why is setting boundaries crucial? Why is setting boundaries important? What are the benefits of setting boundaries? The first benefit is that it protects your mental health. Now, when you set boundaries, it limits or prevents emotional manipulation and gaslighting. Also, setting boundaries reduces stress and anxiety. Boundaries help to create emotional distance from toxic interactions. Also, setting boundaries builds self-confidence. Now, standing up for yourself strengthens your self-worth. Also, setting boundaries encourages independence, whereby you reclaim control over your own life and your decisions. Now, while narcissistic parents often resist boundaries, holding firm is key to breaking free from their emotional control. And as I always say, be unshakable when you set your boundaries, because you belong to an unshakable kingdom. You belong to a kingdom whose builder and maker is God, and God cannot be moved. And so you to stand firm in your boundaries. Of course, your narcissistic parent is going to test your boundaries, but be unshakable in your beliefs. Be unshakable in your boundaries. Now, how do you set boundaries with a narcissistic parent? Identify what you will and will not tolerate. Now, take time to reflect on what behaviors or situations are emotionally harmful to you, and then decide what you will no longer tolerate, such as disrespectful comments or constant criticism, emotional manipulation or guilt tripping, invasion of privacy, and then excessive demands on your time or energy. Determine what you will or will not tolerate amongst all of them. Also, be clear and direct when you are setting boundaries. When communicating boundaries, be firm, be concise and unemotional. Avoid over-explaining or justifying your reasons. Examples: I will not discuss my personal life with you if you continue to criticize my choices. You can also say, I won't tolerate being yelled at. If you raise your voice, I will leave the conversation. You can also say, I'm happy to help occasionally, but I can't be available at all times. thirdly, when it comes to setting boundaries, use the gray rock method. Use what we call the gray rock method. Gray rock is GRE, then rock is ROCK method. Now, narcissists thrive on emotional reactions. The gray rock method involves responding with neutral, unemotional, and brief replies to avoid fueling their drama. Example, the narcissist will say, "You never do anything for me," and then you reply, "I hear you," and then you disengage. That is the gray rock method, and it minimizes conflict and reduces the ability to manipulate you. When it comes to setting boundaries, also enforce consequences consistently. A narcissistic parent may ignore or push past your boundaries. If they do, follow through with consequences or reinforce your limits or follow through with your consequences. Example, if your boundary is, "If you keep disrespecting me, I will hang up the phone." Consequence, if they continue, you immediately hang up. Now, consistency is key. Do not give in or they will continue testing your limits. When it comes to setting boundaries with a narcissistic parent, also limit contact if necessary. In extreme cases, going low contact or no contact may be the best option for your mental health. And so it's either you go low, LOW, contact, or no, NO contact. So low is partial no contact, and then no contact is an abrupt cessation of communication. And whatever it is that you can do that is best for your mental health, go ahead and do it. And so low contact basically means reducing interactions to essential communication only. Example, short phone calls and setting specific meeting times. No contact, on the other hand, means cutting off communication entirely if they are toxic and abusive beyond repair. Now, this decision can be difficult. These things we are talking about are not easy to do, but for your mental health, your sanity, you've got to commit to them. But they are necessary for your self-preservation. Now, dealing with the emotional impact. When you set boundaries, it's gonna have an emotional impact. So even with firm boundaries, dealing with the narcissistic parent can be emotionally exhausting. Now, here are ways to cope. Seek therapy or support groups. A therapist can help you process emotions, set stronger boundaries, and heal from childhood trauma. Let me quickly chip in that the Holy Spirit was my go-to therapist as I fought my way through narcissistic abuse, and I highly recommend the Holy Spirit. I call him the greatest therapist, and truly he is. Now, support groups also provide a safe space to connect with others who understand your struggles. It is helpful when you are in a community where people understand you, where they get you, you belong there and they actually understand you. Also, practice self-care in dealing with the emotional impact of setting boundaries. Now, prioritize activities that nurture your well-being, such as journaling your thoughts and actions, engaging in hobbies that bring you joy. I always say it, ignite your bliss, spark your joy, do things that light you up, do things that make you happy. Also, engage in meditation, exercise, or deep breathing techniques, and then also spend time with supportive and understanding people. When it comes to setting boundaries and dealing with the emotional impact, you've got to also reframe your perspective. Understand that their behavior is not about you, it's about them. And so stop blaming yourself. Narcissists act the way they do due to their own deep-seated insecurities. You are not responsible for fixing them. You are not responsible for changing them. And so stop blaming yourself and stop feeling bad because of whatever it is they are doing. It is all about them and not about you. And so reframe your perspective. Also, develop a strong support system. Surround yourself with healthy, supportive relatives to counteract the emotional drain from dealing with a narcissistic parent. Now, having trusted friends or mentors can make a huge difference. Also, give yourself permission to grieve. It's normal to grieve because you are grieving a relationship you never had with your parent. And so it's normal to grieve the relationship you wish you had with your parents. Accepting that they may never change is painful. It's hard. It's difficult, but it's also freeing to know that they will never change. Now, focus on building a healthier, more fulfilling life for yourself. Now, setting boundaries with a narcissistic parent is challenging. I've said that it's hard, it's difficult. It's the hardest thing you could ever do, but it's essential for your well-being, your emotional well-being, your mental sanity. They may resist, manipulate, or guilt trip you into compliance, but holding your ground is the key to reclaiming your peace and independence. Remember, you are not responsible for their emotions or behavior. It's okay to say no without guilt. Your mental and emotional health matter. With the right boundaries and coping strategies, you can break free from toxic dynamics and create a life where you are fully in control. Now, what struck you the most in this video? Do let me know in the comments, and also share this video with a friend, and hit the subscribe button to become a member of the Oyawale community, where we support one another as we fight our way through narcissistic abuse and emotional trauma.